We have such sights to show. Oh, God, no. Not keeping that voice up for the entire review, no way.
It's time. Greater delights await. We wish to see you proceed. Feed it. Their blood, their pain. All for us. What is it you pray for?
This is not your dad's Hellraiser. I'm telling you that for nothing. As I've mentioned before, I got big into 80s horror in the early 90s. Yeah, I know, the irony. But there was always one particular video cover that still freaked me out, and that was Hellraiser. That cover, with the enigmatic pinhead staring straight at you, trying to entice you by holding out the puzzle box, was just a step too far for me. So it took me a long time before I finally submitted and rented the VHS tape. But even then, it sat in our house for a week, untouched and unwatched. That actually had nothing to do with the movie. I got home to find out that our VCR was getting repaired. Even though it didn't become one of my favorites, I did become a fan of the Hellraiser films. And by films, I only mean the first two. The rest are just different levels of suck. However, the Hellraiser films did introduce me to the name Clive Barker. This was right in my horror reading phase as well, when I devoured the entire works of King, Kuntz, Lehman, and yes, Barker, including The Hellbound Heart, the novella that Hellraiser was based on. But all of that is completely redundant, as none of that bears any weight on this new interpretation. Okay, the lore is there. The puzzle box, the dark dimension, the Cenobites, Leviathan. But the writers have stripped everything away down to its foundation and built up something new. And it's good. But there are a few howevers hanging over it. The story follows a girl named Riley, a recovering drug addict who gets convinced by her new boyfriend to sneak into a storage facility to clear out an old safe that was abandoned there. Upon opening the safe, they find the puzzle box. And not a lot else. So, of course, they take it with them. This pisses off Riley's over-controlling brother, who kicks her out of the house he shares with his boyfriend Colin and their female roommate. I am not going to bother with her name, as she barely has enough screen time to warrant one. Riley and brother fight, she storms off into the night, finds some pills in the back of her car, and takes a pretty heavy dose. And while they are kicking in, she plays with the puzzle box, unleashing the Cenobites. They then task her to find 6 sacrifices, so she can be granted a great gift. Otherwise, they will take her as a sacrifice instead. Okay, all of that is a bit of an oversimplification, but you get the idea. First up, I'm just going to get this off my chest. This film fits squarely into the stylized horror genre that has become prevalent over the last decade. Which was great when it first started, but the big problem with it is that the style all of these stylized films are using is the exact same bloody one. So they all look the same. This took me out of the film so much that I really failed to connect for at least the first half an hour or so. Adding to that is another annoying trope that has been used to death over the last decade or so. Unlikable protagonists. Riley is just really off-putting for the beginning of the film, and she doesn't really get much better as the film goes on either. I mean, for a while there, you really don't care if anything nasty happens to her. Actually, there are a few people in this film you really don't warm up to much during its runtime. So it makes it tough to give a damn when they start getting picked off. And while I'm on a roll, why is it that in all of these more realistic interpretations, that none of the characters will open their mouths so you can understand what they are saying? Seriously, Mumblecore has a lot to answer for. Now that I've got that out of my system, this movie is actually pretty good. It's 2 hours long, and it does take some time to really get moving, but you do find yourself getting intrigued. The writers have taken the very limited lore behind the franchise and managed to really build something new and original, while sticking to a lot of the original concepts. There's a real story here, and there seems to be some pretty decent motivations behind the characters' actions. The lead character, Riley, does start off as unlikable, and that really doesn't change that much. But Odessa Zion does a good enough job in the role that you're still interested enough to stick around for her story. The other characters are varying degrees of likable, but they all do their jobs. No one stands out as terrible, and they all work for the story. But yeah, okay, you're not here for that. You want to hear about the Cenobites. And they're actually really impressive. The designs work well, utilizing this flayed skin configuration to create updated versions of the originals. I recognize the main Cenobites from the original film straight away, but all have been given this gory yet beautiful makeover. You find yourself scrutinizing every detail of their bodies whenever they are on screen. And yes, Pinhead, or the Priest as she is known in this, is great. The choice to cast female was a great way to separate her from the Doug Bradley version, and Jamie Clayton, who plays her in this, is intense and elegant, giving the character a dark and gruesome sexuality without being overt about it. There have been so many Hellraiser sequels over the years, most of them straight to video, and majority speaking, shithouse. So they really didn't have to try too hard to make it better than any of them. But the filmmakers actually put effort into doing a remake that was fresh and new instead of just rehashing the same shit with a new coat of paint. I think some work could have been done on developing the characters a bit more at the beginning so you care about them, but that doesn't take away from it. If you are a fan of the original films, I highly recommend that you give this one a crack. If you've never seen the original films, give this one a watch anyway. There might be something there for you. Or to quote the lady herself, "We have such sights to show you."